Good afternoon, everyone. First of all, let me extend congratulations to the Guyana Cancer Society on this extremely bold and huge step as we all take a collective stand against cancer. It is expected that NGOs help the health sector in developing optimal health care for our patients. Being here this afternoon, I can't help but recall my days of working at GPHC and working with patients who needed just more than medical care. They needed a lot more non-medical input. And it's with this thought in mind that NGOs, organizations, become extremely significant when we look at healthcare delivery. We must take into consideration that I've seen the team, Let's Conquer Cancer. To do that, we need all hands on board. And that is why today is extremely significant. We must also acknowledge that NCDs require a holistic approach, and that is extremely significant. And cancer is absolutely no exception. I am also happy to be here today so that I can start lobbying for Region 6. I can't leave without doing that, and I will end by lobbying for Region 6, Mr. Chan. Let me state that we would be happy to have an extension of this in our region, Region 6, and we're looking forward. As a region, we serve a population of more than 150 persons across the country. And we really do look forward for strengthening partnership as we go forward in delivering health care. Kindly permit me briefly to state a few things about Region 6 before I leave. We thanks to the Ministry of Health, we would have established a Women's Wellness Center, a center that caters for early screening and diagnosis of cancer, specifically gynecological. We launched in February. I'm extremely happy today to state that we would have had from 17 women visiting us in the first month, we would have increased to 49 in a span of 4 weeks. It tells us that there is a need, there is a gap when it comes to screening our women force. And we're expected to continue to establish 2 more in our region. I must also state that the amount of screening we would have done, we haven't reached the first quarter for 2022, but we would have surpassed 100 VIAs in Region 6, as compared to 20 last year with just outreaches. That is excluding the fixed sites that we have in our region. We have a fixed and committed health team, and again, as I stated in the beginning, I'll start and I'll end by lobbying for Region 6 as we go forward in ensuring each and every one of us is entitled to equitable and equal health care access. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Sharma, Region 6, all righty. So the Guyana Cancer Society, it is also established to provide assistance. Now, these include, but are not limited very important in all aspects, including family counseling. And I think this is something that we really need to pay keen attention to as well, because if you have a family member who has cancer, that causes a ripple effect. So family counseling is very, very important as well. Finances, that's a big thing, right? So financial assistance, such as to help with surgery or daily medical needs, which usually racks up really high. So definitely we're here to assist with that. Also medical intervention and legal aid reference and other areas that pertains to assisting the diagnosed patient. At this time, I'd like to call on Dr. Desmond Nicholson, who is the RHO of Region Number 5, to deliver some brief remarks. Dr. Nicholson.
Protocols being established already. I did not expect that I'd be asked to speak. However, having listened to my colleague from Region 6, I think it's important that I say something on behalf of Region 5 and advocate for equity, as she mentioned, equity in healthcare. Region 5, we have partnered with the Guyana Relief Council. Last year, during my tenure, we had a very successful outreach. Mr. Khan and his organization, Chan, it's Dr. Sharma's fault. Mr. Chan and his organization demonstrated to us what is possible when we have these kinds of partnerships. I was especially impressed when he spoke about the establishment of a cancer registry. I was surprised that we had not, as a country, yes, I was, that we had not embarked on such a very important pillar in the management of cancer. And we offered our support, at least I did, in Region 5, helping to, even in the rudimentary stages, in the establishment of such an instrument. I expect that the Minister of Health, the Honorable Dr. Anthony, as we move from here, we will be looking at various registries across the 10 regions and being able to collate that information so that we can effectively manage persons who have been diagnosed with cancer, case finding, abstracting, surveillance, and reporting. Region 5 has a very robust VIA program. It's very important for screening, very important for triage and determining the follow-up passages in terms of validation, etc. And we will continue to partner with the Guyana Cancer Society. We're going to assist in conquering cancers, as mentioned here. I'm very pleased to be invited to speak on behalf of Region 5 and to, just to say that thank you to Dr. Sharma for extending the blueprint to us for the Women Wellness Center, and it is something that we too will be adopting very soon. So thank you very much, and great initiative. I believe that we can only reach greater heights with this kind of initiative, caring for loved ones who have been diagnosed with cancer. Thank you.
Thank you very much, RHO of Region Number 5, Dr. Desmond Nicholson. So whenever we think of societies and foundations of any nature, we think outreaches, outreaches, outreaches. So the Guyana Cancer Society, now their outreach, our outreach, will take the form of several aspects. One, educating, of course, the public about cancer and how to avoid positive screening. B, conducting well tests to determine the physical health of a person being treated. Distributing of food items, of course, and other essential items as they become available to the general population. And finally, teaching the respective communities about the importance of living in a clean and sustainable environment. Now at this time, we're going to be further entertained, because I know y'all being entertained by me, but we're going to invite Miss Alicia Woodram, and she's going to perform a beautiful poem for us. Can we give her a round of applause?
Good afternoon, everyone. Honorable Ambassador, Minister of Health, and all our noble honored guests. My poem is entitled, Health is Our Greatest Wealth. It's written by yours truly. A country's progress is measured by the health of its people. Anxious as we are to improve our circumstances, are we willing to improve ourselves? In a world where you can choose to be anything, why not be happy, be healthy? But how do we measure the wealth of a society? Rich in the things that matter. Vitality, agility, flexibility, and energetic bodies. Minds that are filled with positivity, optimism, reflective, alert, as well as peaceful. Hearts that are compassionate, empathetic, kind, and generous. Attitudes of inclusivity, concern, and benevolence for all of humanity. A realization that awareness and consciousness are decision-making abilities. When you look around the world, we see rapid development, especially in our own Guyana. Material growth that far exceeds every other generation. At this stage of innovation and technological advancement, we are assailed by the ills of our humanity, cries of indignity, creating instability when we hear of all the death and illnesses that are plaguing our society. Fear assails the mind, pushing the body in the ancient fight or flight mode of survival. Health is our greatest wealth. For what is a human being without health? Impoverished, unhappy, fearful, ill, and most of all, dependent. Our health is the basis of the well-being of all the future generations. Our DNA, lifestyle, and the knowledge we leave behind preserve the future of humanity. Our generation's main task is to help resolve our errors, undo the mistakes of the past, make well-being a priority, encourage mind-body-spirit connection, to take actions to heal our intellectual separation. Our life is our making. Even though we are constantly influenced by external situations and internal emotional variations, we have a responsibility to this piece of life, to turn it around, to look within, to change our reality. We have to be the change we wish to see, to start the journey look at the pillars of well-being immediately. Nutrition, sleep, and movement are keys to a healthy society, coupled with self-care, emotional and mental safety. And last but not least, in this world of information overload, we should seek solitude more and more. As we process and download the day's stress and activities, turn into that quiet space within, seeking the wisdom of silence and tranquility to cure our mental malady, using our breath to return to emotional stability. Why not choose to thrive, I ask, not just survive? Return to homeostasis through mindful awareness. We are human beings, the highest, most intelligent of the species. Choose a life that is whole, full, vibrant, and joyful. Choose well-being. Choose you. Then, Sherry, I'm sorry to say this, we wouldn't have need for the Guyana Cancer Society. Thank you so much.
Very much, Ms. McGrath. So just before I invite the next speaker, I was listening to the words of the beautiful poem, thank you very much. How long did that take you to write? 15 minutes, 15 minutes, wow. So as I was listening to you, and we oftentimes hear our influencers talking about well-being and inner peace. So I got a little story for you. So I'm renting an apartment, and first time, there's something specifically that we all look for, or whenever it is we're building our houses, we want to build that little sanctuary where after every day you can just go and de-stress, right? So I fell in love with my bathroom. The bathroom for me is the best thing, it's the best part. I create my art pieces in my bathroom. So find that thing, like you said, like Miss Alicia said, find that thing that works for you, because you need to take care of you. Then you can take care of everybody else. All right, so I have the pleasure of introducing the president of the Guyana Cancer Society, Mr. Sharir Chan.
So I can take this off. Honorable Minister of Health, Dr. Frank Anthony, Ambassador Guyana from the United States, Madam Sarah Andrews, special guests, and ladies and gentlemen, thank you for being here as we introduce our new initiative to take on the issue of cancer here in Guyana. According to PAHO, Guyana shares one of the highest burdens of non-communicable diseases in the Americas. In 2019, Guyana experienced a death rate of 802 per 100,000 persons. And when it comes to cancer in Guyana, we are at 97 per 100,000. However, look at this. Let's talk about cervical cancer. Guyana has a population of 282,685 women 15 years and older, and they're all at risk of developing cervical cancer. Every year, 121 women are diagnosed with cervical cancer, and 63 die from this disease. This is the second most frequent cause of cancer in Guyana after breast cancer. Now, what does it mean for us? Looking at the statistics, Guyana Cancer Society will have its work cut out. We realize the government, and most especially the Ministry of Health, cannot take on this issue alone. We will, in coordination with the Ministry of Health, work towards increasing VIA screenings. We aim to work with the health centers and the health posts to increase the amount of women to be screened. We will intensify our efforts at education, both in the schools and at the health centers, so that persons can arm themselves with the tools necessary to prevent cancer. Among the training, we aim to teach persons to administer the self-breast examination. And we aim also to educate men on the role that we play in stemming the tide of cervical cancer. Men need to know that we are the carriers of the HPV virus that spreads to our women folks. And we also are heavily affected by prostate cancer. So our role as men is just as important as women, because we also recognize the need for support of our women who have been affected by cancer. Dr. Anthony, I'd like to take a moment to thank you for being here and for recognizing the importance that Guyana Cancer Society can play in the healthcare of Guyana. So thank you for being here and for caring. Ladies and gentlemen, I've been advocating for better healthcare in Guyana for nearly 30 years. Through my position as the Chief Operations Officer of Guyana Medical Relief, many of you medical people here, and doctors and so on, would have known of Guyana Medical Relief. And we're an almost 40-year-old organization that's based in California. I have been seasoned, if you will, to the nuances and the vicissitudes of Guyana's healthcare system. From providing basic plaster of Paris to patients in 1984, when the healthcare system in Guyana was in shatters, to shipping container full of medicine and medical supplies to various hospitals in Guyana, to recognize the need for better infrastructure, thus completing the accident and emergency unit at the Port Morant Hospital. We remodeled that, as a matter of fact. And to building VIA clinics in Maikoni, in Bartica, and in Charity. So we have affected probably all the regions in Guyana, and so we have an understanding of the nuances of Guyana's health needs, and it's close to my heart. And so we come to you today to present not only a richness of experience of our past, but a tremendous amount of weight and experience we have behind us as we move on to another chapter of our lives. That is to zone in and conquer cancer. I would like to introduce you to the board of the Guyana Cancer Foundation at this stage. When I call you guys, please just step forward and so that we can see you. As was said, I am the president until we have due elections a year from now or 6 months from now. The vice president is GDF Major Dr. Mir Khan. Dr. Khan, would you step forward? Dr. Khan is an Essequiban, has had a career with the GDF since 1975. He studied dentistry in Brazil, and while there did an attachment at Recife Cancer Hospital in Brazil. He spent 21 years in Brazil, but returned in 2007 to become the Force Dental Officer, and has been the chairman of the Dental Council of Guyana for a number of years. Major Khan is now the vice president of Guyana Cancer Society. Dr. Mark Reddy. Mark is a recent graduate from medical school and is set to begin medical internship at the GPHC. Mark volunteers with several NGOs, and he plays a major role in coordinating their medical outreaches. And Mark plays a major role, I will stress that, in our outreaches that we've gone to. Mark is the secretary of the board. Dr. Navin Rambaran, our assistant secretary, is the associate professor in surgery at the Georgetown Public Hospital and at the University of Guyana. Dr. Rambaran is the current chairman of the Medical Council of Guyana. Mrs. Sharon Rodriguez. Sharon is our assistant treasurer and is the Human Resource Manager at Massey Distribution. Sharon has a degree in Business Management at the University of Guyana, a degree in Psychology, and does volunteer work with CIOG. Unfortunately, Dr. Jason James Ramcharan is not here because he's a medical doctor presently pursuing postgraduate studies in clinical neurology in Cuba. Jason is a highly motivated individual who is passionate about helping others. He intends to be more proactive with our society when he returns to Guyana. Jason is a member of our board. Dr. Surajpal Singh graduated from medical school in Cuba in 2013. Surajpal served in multiple medical facilities throughout Guyana, including Region 1. Dr. Singh joined the residency program in OBGYN at GPHC. After graduating in 2020, he was reassigned to New Amsterdam Regional Hospital, where he's the head of obstetrics and gynecology, dealing with various types of gynecological cancer. Dr. Sharma, you got the best of the crop. Dr. Desiree Ross is a Cuban-trained medical doctor with a postgraduate diploma in endocrinology and diabetes. Dr. Ross is currently the medical officer at the National COVID-19 Task Force Secretariat. Dr. Ross is our board member, and may I add, she's Myconian like me. Mr. Asif Owal, Asif is not here, but Asif is the administrative assistant at the Port Barant Hospital in Region 6 and is now the current administrator of my Victoria Hospital. Mrs. Sasha Hatim. Sasha used to be at the Georgetown Public Hospital in the administrative area. Sasha is now a public health student at the University of Guyana, and she's passionate about helping as well. Sasha, she did these bowls, by the way. So stay right there, guys. The aim of the Guyana Cancer Society is to relieve the suffering across the spectrum of cancer of those who have been affected by and infected with cancer. We heard your cry as we battled conditions during our outreach treks across Guyana. There has hardly been a time when during our outreaches we have not come in contact with somebody affected by cancer. At the same time, we recognize that cancer does not occur in a vacuum. We intend to effect treatment across the board, assisting with the non-communicable diseases such as high blood pressure, diabetes, dental care, eye care, etc. Our mission is to relieve the suffering of cancer patients, but in this regard, it is to work towards the prevention of, or towards decreasing the propensity to become affected by cancer. We look forward to your cooperation and to your help as we set up shop to battle this scourge that runs rampant in this country of our birth. We cannot do it alone, and we implore you to join us. And together, let's conquer cancer. Thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, can we give the board of directors another round of applause? Congratulations and all the very best. I'm so proud to see people here that I know. Dr. Singh and I, we went to Potentia Secondary School together. We came through, I'm so very proud of him. Dr. Kibi, Dr. Radisari, very young, enthusiastic, of course Sasha and the entire board. Congratulations, Dr. Chan, you got a great team there with you. Ladies and gentlemen, we are now going to hear from CIOG Director of Education and Dua, Sheikh Moinal Haq.
Thank you. Honorable Minister of Health, Dr. Frank Anthony, Ambassador of the United States to Guyana, and Sarah Ann Lynch, all the health professionals and workers here with us this afternoon, members of the media, distinguished gathering, GM, CIG Secretariat, Shamina Rajab, distinguished gathering, peace be unto you. It's indeed an honor and a privilege to make some remarks on behalf of the principal organization of Muslims in Guyana, CIOG, Central Islamic Organization of Guyana. And I wish to thank the Directors Executive Committee for this invite to offer these remarks. Most of us are familiar with the Guyana Medical Relief, which has served our country for almost 40 years with donations from the United States of America. And so on behalf of our government, on behalf of the people of Guyana, we wish to thank Your Excellency. Please convey our sentiments to your government for their generosity for more than 4 decades. A round of applause for the United States of America. Thank you. CIOG has collaborated with Guyana Medical Relief, the Civil Affairs Team, U.S. Embassy, our own Ministry of Health, and the health professionals, doctors, and other workers here in numerous projects for the benefit of the Guyanese people. And so this Guyana Cancer Society, coming from with a track record, the excellent track record you've had at the Guyana Medical Relief and this excellent team. In fact, I'm inspired by their passion to help others, will definitely have a positive impact on the Guyana Cancer Society with the wealth of experience you have gained. And so we look forward at the CIOG, and we wish to assure you of our continued support with Guyana Medical Relief and now the Guyana Cancer Society. Cancer undoubtedly is among the leading causes of death worldwide, and here also in our country. So assuring the physical and mental health of each individual is the first building block of a prosperous society and a peaceful planet. From the teachings of Islam and our Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, said if someone helps in relieving a burden, a suffering of another human being, then God Almighty will relieve him or her of one of their burdens. Unquote. So on behalf of the Central Islamic Organization of Guyana, I commend you for your collaborative efforts and this initiative, which will complement undoubtedly the institutions and organizations working to provide counsel, information on cancer prevention, cancer therapy, and medication for those affected, among others. It would be remiss of me if I do not thank our government and the Ministry of Health and our Honorable Minister in particular for taking the bull by the horn and to have delivered himself and the team right across. By the way, Honorable Minister, your experience with the RHO of Region 6 and 5 has been our experience at CIOG. You have to give the Barbadians priority in anything you do. They are very vocal and they're going to make a lot of noise. So just keep that in mind. That has been our experience too at CIOG. And so we wish to, on behalf of the people of Guyana, thank our Honorable Minister for the excellent vaccination program against COVID-19 in our country, Guyana. We have already committed, and we reassure the Ministry of Health that when it comes to the vaccination of our females to prevent cervical cancer, CIG will be there definitely, as we did with COVID-19, to collaborate with your ministry and the health institutions across our country. Congratulations, Guyana Cancer Society. May God bless Guyana. May God bless us all. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sheikh Moinal Haq. At this time, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to hear from the U.S. Ambassador to Guyana, Her Excellency, Madam Sarah Ann Lynch.
Thank you so much, Natasha. Great to be here today. Honorable Dr. Frank Anthony, Minister of Health, President, Guyana Cancer Society, Mr. Sharia Chang, Dr. Tariq Jagnarai, Director, National AIDS Program, Secretariat, Sheikh Moeen Al-Haq, Director, Education, CIOG, members of the Diplomatic Corps, members of my own team at the Embassy, the Civil Affairs team, Guyanese and U.S. NGO colleagues, physicians, dentists, doctors all, and all of those impacted by cancer here, and the survivors who may be here today. Members of the media and ladies and gentlemen, thank you all so very much, and a wonderful good afternoon to you. It is truly a privilege to be here today to speak at this wonderful event. Although the Guyana Cancer Society is new, the relationships that I and other Americans have formed with many of the people here today are not at all new. I have seen many of you before at outreaches held in locations across Guyana. I've worked with many of you before, and I know of your dedication to helping the Guyanese people. And for that, I thank you all. Cancer is a problem that affects every gender, every race, every religion, every age. It does not discriminate. And that is why it's so important for organizations like this, the Guyana Cancer Society, to focus on prevention, on early detection, and on effective treatment. It's also important for the families of cancer patients to receive support and attention. Cancer does not just affect those who are diagnosed with it. Cancer affects families, it affects whole communities alike. So I am eager to see how we can further the cause of diagnosing, treating, and helping those affected by cancer. As we work together to battle cancer, we can empower women. And in this week of celebrating International Women's Day, there have been so many activities, I would like to highlight some of the things that affect women during this process. Breast cancer, for example, if I have my figures correct, doctors, accounts for almost 22% of all cancer cases in Guyana, while cervical cancer accounts for another about 16%. These are high figures. The good news, however, is that screening for these types of cancer is not a difficult process. And the U.S. Embassy has participated in many outreaches, especially to the hinterland communities, where cervical cancer screening was provided. And I believe that the Guyana Cancer Society will work tirelessly in the fight against cancer, and their efforts, combined with those of all of you here today, can result in a reduction in the mortality rates of Guyanese women diagnosed with cancer, and Guyanese men, of course, as well. What an absolute relief this would be not just to the women and men of Guyana, but to all their families, to all their loved ones as well. So our presence here today was made possible because we are all successfully working together. The U.S. government, the Guyanese government, U.S. NGOs, and Guyanese NGOs. I would like to especially acknowledge Sharir Khan and the board of the Guyana Cancer Society, who were all instrumental in establishing this new organization, the Guyana Cancer Society, and organizing this event today. I know that in the past you've worked closely with the U.S. Embassy's Civil Affairs team, and I know that a continued partnership will magnify the work of both of our organizations. I must also recognize the wonderful work of the Minister of Health, Dr. Frank Anthony. We do a lot of events together, so I know very well how hard he works. And he has the patience and willingness to work tirelessly with a variety of organizations in Guyana to ensure that as many resources and services are provided as possible. Providing quality medical treatment in Guyana presents unique challenges, and Dr. Anthony is very familiar with those and does an amazing job of constantly working to improve overall healthcare in Guyana, and we are very honored to work with him and all the members of the ministry. So I personally am overjoyed at the positive response for this event. I saw we had to get extra chairs, and there's standing room only at this point. And I truly look forward to working together to continue in this fight against cancer. And I want you all to know that the United States is committed to public health in local communities. Our commitment across Guyana is absolutely unwavering. And I wish all of you here, everyone involved in this effort, much continued success. Let's conquer cancer together, everyone. Thank you so very much.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency. Ladies and gentlemen, at this time, and I've been rehearsing this, at this time, it is my pleasure and honor to welcome and introduce to us, if you don't know, our Honorable Minister of Health, Dr. Frank Anthony.
Thank you very much, Natasha. Ambassador Lynch, President of the Guyana Cancer Society, Mr. Sharir Chan, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I'm really honored to be here with you this afternoon as we launch this NGO that I think would make a big impact on what we are trying to do for our patients and also to prevent cancer in Guyana. As you know, traditionally the diseases that we have been working working with in Guyana has been more infectious diseases, and we focus a lot of our attention on those. But when you look at the disease profile that we have in the country, you'll see that there's a transition from infectious diseases to more non-communicable diseases. And cancer forms a very big part of that. But it might surprise quite a lot of you here, excepting, I guess, the medical people, that infections play a big role in cancer. So one very prominent cancer that we know, the second most prevalent cancer among women, is cervical cancer. And that is caused by the HPV, the human papillomavirus. Now, if we are able to vaccinate persons between 9 to 14, both male and female, and do it across that age cohort and continue to do that for a number of years, we can eventually eliminate cervical cancer from Guyana. And that is something we have to work towards. Now, the technology is not new. It's been here. It's been around for quite a while. And in this country, we have made 2 attempts to do HPV vaccination, but on both occasions they have been unsuccessful because we have not been able to do it in a very comprehensive way. The first time we started it, we did it as a pilot, and it really never took off, and so we were not able to scale it up. And again, when we re-attempted it again, it didn't go very far. I think if I recall, some of the rates are very dismal. First dose is probably about 30%, second dose is probably about 15 or 13%. Very abysmal. But we can change that. If we are serious about eliminating the second most prevalent cancer among women, we can change that by doing HPV vaccination. But just like COVID, one of the biggest problems that we have is misinformation. A lot of misinformation. So when you go and you try to talk to people about HPV vaccination, you hear all kinds of myths. But I think some of the work that we have done with COVID in helping us to dispel myths, to dispel misinformation, and to work with people to give them the facts and so forth, that would help us to change how many we roll out the next round of HPV vaccination. So in another 2 months or so, we want to start at the ministry level to roll out HPV vaccines. And as I was talking to the staff who's responsible for this, I said I don't want to hear no more about any more pilots. If we're doing this, we know that in other countries where this was done, it has worked, and it has worked very well. So we don't need to go to a pilot to tell us whether this thing is effective or not. It is working. And so when we start in about 2 months from now, we want to move very quickly to scale so that we can cover everyone who is eligible within this age group of 9 to 14, both boys and girls. And that's where I think the Guyana Cancer Society comes in very nicely, because there are communities that we're trying to reach, or we'll try to reach. There are parents who we have to talk to get their permission, and therefore we would need your assistance in getting us to those persons. We need you on the education front to help us to dispel these myths. We will need you to make sure that when we go into communities that we're able to talk to people and bring that level of education so that people can understand the importance of this. And I am sure that if we are able to scale this up to the level that we need to be, let's say our cohort is about 14,000 persons. So we are talking about 14,000 persons every year. So from 9 to 14, when we look at that, it is something that is doable. And then we continue to do it routinely as part of our vaccination program, so that this now would become a standard vaccine that you will get in Guyana. Right now we have all the vaccines for HPV. So it's now a matter of rolling it out. So I'm counting on the Guyana Cancer Society to help us to do that. CIOG has already committed that once we start the program, they are going to be with us across the country and making sure that people understand this. And I'm very grateful. And if there are any other non-governmental organization, any other group that is interested in helping us, we want you to come on board. So one of the things that we'll be doing very shortly is to get a number of stakeholders together for us to discuss this strategy of how we roll out HPV vaccination. And I'm hoping that we can get lots of people in the room and that we roll it out in every single region. Imagine 10 years from now when we can all look back and say that cervical cancer used to be the second most prevalent cancer in Guyana among women, but we have now eliminated it. Isn't that going to be wonderful news? So that's what we are aiming to do. But while we are working on the vaccination, one of the things that I like what I heard about screening, we need to extend screening. And as I was saying to Ambassador Lynch earlier, you know, we got a lot of help through PEPFAR to do HIV. But what a lot of people did not know is that part of those funding, we were screening HIV positive women to see whether or not they have cervical cancer. And some of the first VIA clinics that we introduced, the protocols and everything else that we put together, was because of the work we were doing through HIV. And we were able to roll that out. At one point we had about 22 clinics, and we were able to detect persons if they were VIA positive, let's put it that way, and then be able to treat those persons. Now, we are still doing screening, but the screening that we're doing again is relatively limited. So this must not be like a special program. This must be across the board as one of the things that you can come to any health center and be able to access. So it mustn't be something that is special, right? That you have to go to some special institution to get it. It must be across the board. And we must be able to train our healthcare workers to be able to deliver this. And that's our aim. So we have to now expand the VIA clinics that we're doing and make them more routine as part of our primary healthcare services. And that must be across the region. So again, we'll be training in this regard. Pap smears. This is another area that we can look at very quickly, and we have to do so. And then there's HPV testing. And this is something that has been recently introduced, but again, there's no reason why it cannot be more widely available. Of course, there's a cost, but I'm sure once we start working on it, we can bring down that cost to something that is very reasonable for persons who want to do it. So that's a very systematic way in which we can tackle cervical cancer and reduce it in a very significant way. And then I heard when Dr. Nicholson was speaking, he spoke about the registry. Well, we do have a cancer registry. And the ministry, every year, we'll put about $20 million for the people who are running the registry to be able to collect information. Unfortunately, a lot of times surgeries are done, but the information is not collected. So the information that we currently have would be on the reporting of what actually is happening with cancer in Guyana. And that is something we have to correct. And so we are going to reorganize the registry and update those records and put some measures in place so that when surgeries are done, whether in private or the public sector, that these can be reported to us so that we can constantly update our registry and know about the prevalence of these diseases. But a big problem, even if when we do that in a comprehensive way, a big problem would be that sometimes the pathology results, we don't have the kind of accuracy sometimes that we like to have. And more recently, with the collaboration that we have with Northwell, they have donated to us a microscope that is going to increase the turnaround time of how we process some of these pathology slides. And we have some other innovations that we're working on, including telepathology, where we'll prepare the slides here and it can be read in other places. So this is something that we are currently working on, because if we don't have the expertise here, it does not mean that we can't access the service. We have to find innovative ways of how we can do that. So looking at cervical cancer, this is one of the things that we feel very confident that we can reduce once we have this kind of holistic collaboration and approach to this particular disease. We are also looking at breast cancer. And again, self-examination is one of those early methods once you're able to detect a lump You come in and that we'll be able to take you through those steps. But we have to educate people from very early what to look for. Not when you get older, then we are teaching these things. Some of these things should be taught in the school system. So we have to make sure that this type of information is out there. We have also been grappling, as some of you know, certainly Dr. Rambaran would know, from time to time we see liver cancers. These two, in a lot of cases, can be prevented because they're caused by viruses. You have hepatitis B virus, hepatitis C virus, and guess what? In a lot of cases, we know the persons, or at least some of them, who would have hep C viruses. Because many of the people, when they come to us as blood donors and we screen them, we can detect whether or not they have hep C viruses. But for a long time, we are detecting people with hep C, but because of the cost of the treatment, we were unable to treat people who had hep C. Well, we are currently working on a program which is going to start this year. So every person that was diagnosed with hep C, we are going to start by treating them this year. And not just treating them, we are planning to cure them with the treatment that we have and which we will be buying, so that hep C will not be a problem. And if we reduce the burden of hep C, it means that what we are doing is preventing hepatic cancers from happening in a large way. There might be other causes, but in a very significant way, it is caused by these viruses. So for these two tracks, we are working on it, and you will see some very specific interventions this year. And there are other areas that we can look at. We need to improve what we are doing with our radiotherapy. And there are efforts that we are currently working on how we are going to do that. But again, we are not going to be able to do this without a very robust education program. This is very, very important. And I cannot overstate the importance of you helping us to get this information out to people. In some cases, we have a clinic in the community, but people wouldn't come to the clinic because they have all kinds of apprehensions. Some of it for the health workers, we find it maybe to be ludicrous that people wouldn't come. The service is here. But we have to get into the mindset of some of those persons to understand why they don't want to come. What are the cultural taboos that prevents them from coming to these services? And once they can be reassured, then maybe we'll see better uptake of some of these services. So there's a lot of work to be done, a lot of work to be done. And I'm really happy that with your organization that we'll be able to extend some of these types of work. I note that in your board, it is you have a significant presence of medical personnel, so we are going to take advantage of that because I'm sure you'll be able to do lots of education, but also educating persons, teaching some of the procedures so that we can get this work done. But we want to have a comprehensive system, and I really look forward to working with you and working with all departments so that we can change the dynamics of what is happening with cancer in Guyana. And one of the other things that we need to also start reinforcing, as you know, a risk factor for lung cancer is smoking. We still have too many people who are smoking, and despite the legislation that prohibits, I see a lot of public institutions that still allow some of these things to happen. So that too is another area where we need to talk to people and educate people about how to prevent some of these cancers. So I think, as I said, this is a wonderful day for all of us. And we, from the ministry point of view, we really look forward to working with you. With many of the organizations here, the CIOG, we have had very strong and positive relationships. They have gone out into very remote communities and helped us. And certainly with the vaccination program, they have been a very robust partner with us, helping us to plan some of these things in unconventional settings and getting people vaccinated. And we are very grateful. The success that we have had with our COVID-19 vaccination is not about the ministry alone. It is because of the partners that allow us to be able to reach so many people. And because of your efforts, that is why we have been so successful. And it would be remiss of me when I talk about COVID-19 vaccination if I don't mention the United States. They have been extremely good partners with us. Many of you don't know this, but when we were thinking about bringing Pfizer to Guyana, we didn't have the refrigerators for Pfizer because it requires -70. And when we were looking across this country in every lab that we have, the most that we had was a -20 refrigerator, which would not work. And the US government kindly consented to donating 5 such freezers to us. And that is how we build capacity. And in addition to those freezers, we got the vaccines, a lot of it donated, whether through the COVAX mechanism or directly through our bilateral arrangements, we were able to access those vaccines. And so, you know, when I talk about the successes, it's not just the ministry alone, but all the partners, both our international partners, governments like the United States, and of course our local partners like CIOG and many others who helped us. And I think this model that have been demonstrated, that when there's such an emergency and when there's such a health problem, that if we put our efforts together, that together we can defeat the problem. And we need to take that same spirit, that same type of teamwork, and move it over to the cancers and other urgent types of diseases that we want to conquer. So for the Guyana Cancer Society, I know this is your priority, but there are others too, that as we deal with this one, we'll ask you for your help in other things. So thank you very much, and once again, I'm very happy to join you as we launch this organization.
Dr. Anthony. And so to join in the call from our Honorable Minister, membership application forms are available. There's a desk right to the front. So you please be encouraged. I'm going to be signing up, by the way, Mr. Chan. I'm going to be on board, so thank you very much. And Mr. Chan, I must say to you and your board, yada yell hands full. All right, so ladies and gentlemen, at this time, I want to invite you all to please stand. Alicia Woodram, she's going to come